Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news about a man who died in police custody in Jefferson Parish last week. The Jefferson coroner says the man's death was a homicide. The sheriff said the man was a drug suspect when he died during a struggle with JPSO detectives last week. 22-year-old Keeven Robinson was killed after being chased by narcotics detectives last Thursday. The sheriff's office says Robinson crashed into two sheriff's deputies' vehicles before getting out of his car and then running into some backyards. He had been the target of a drug investigation, and during the struggle with the sheriff's deputies, he died. Danny Monteverde was at the press conference this morning with the Jefferson coroner and the sheriff, Joe Lopinto, and he is joining us live from Jefferson Parish headquarters, the sheriff's headquarters right now. And this is a bit of a different story from what was theorized by the sheriff's office on Thursday when the man died.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. Good afternoon. If you recall, on Thursday, Sheriff Joe Lopinto said this may have been an incident where the deputies were chasing the suspect, again, 22-year-old Keeven Johnson, who had asthma. That may have contributed to his death. Very quickly, though, the family said that wasn't the case. They suspected he had been strangled or choked. And again, the autopsy today, the preliminary report is that that was the case. Dr. Gerry, the Jefferson Parish coroner, said that the initial cause of death is asphyxiation, and it has been ruled a homicide. Now, we should point out that that is the medical classification at this point. That's not the criminal cause of death at this point. The coroner can only determine a cause of death. Homicide is basically death at the hands of another person. Again, it's not the homicide investigation that prosecutors or police will go after, so that's something that investigation is ongoing. The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office continues to investigate this. They've called in the Louisiana State Police to investigate it as well, and Sheriff Joe Lopinto says he's called in the FBI's Civil Rights Task Force as well. Now, there was a wide-ranging press conference that wrapped up just a short time ago where the coroner, sheriff, and the NAACP spoke, and here's what they had to say.
The forensic definition of homicide is death that's caused by the actions of another. And that's the impression that we have at this point.
Saturday, May 12th, Dr. Cvitanovich advised me of these initial findings that he's just released. Our JPSO homicide division was called back in on Saturday, along with all four of the detectives involved in this incident, in order to cooperate in a criminal investigation. That's what we do as part of any type of homicide investigation. Our officers read their rights. They cooperated. They gave statements. I understand that this investigation will be under a microscope. I understand it fully. I made the phone call on Saturday to contact Colonel Reeves with the Louisiana State Police. I asked for his office to also come in to do a joint investigation with us. Never can have too many sets of eyes to make sure we're doing it properly.
Right now, I am satisfied. I'm just so glad, because I knew within my heart that it wasn't, he just didn't die because the ozone was high.
And again, there you hear that final soundbite from Gaylor Spiller with the Jefferson Parish NAACP, alluding to the statement that Sheriff Joe Lopinto made on Thursday, that there may have been something with Robinson's asthma and the conditions of the air that possibly led to his death. Lopinto acknowledged that there was a fight that Robinson had with the deputies during his arrest, and obviously during that fight, something happened where he was strangled or choked. Again, we're waiting for the final Jefferson Parish coroner report on that to find out what happened. Now, Lopinto says he couldn't go yet into details about what led to that fight or what happened specifically. He did say that Robinson had a gun in his car, but he was not armed at the time. Now, there were 4 detectives who were involved in this. They've been reassigned until that investigation is done, and it is given to the Jefferson Parish District Attorney for review. Now, at 6:30 this evening, the family and some community members will have a march and a rally for Robinson out at the scene on Jefferson Highway just off of Causeway, where this all happened on Thursday. Later on this evening at 5 o'clock, I'll have additional details about the investigation, both on the part of the Sheriff's Office and the Coroner's Office. My colleague Paul Murphy has some new video that you'll see for the first time about the final moments of Robinson's, just before, I should say, Robinson had that fatal encounter with the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. That's the latest for now. Reporting live at the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's headquarters, Danny Monteverde, Eyewitness News. Eric?
All right, Danny, this case is far from over. Thank you very much.